Women's water polo, suit grabs, holds, and exposure. In this presentation, we are going to deal with the women's game and the player's never-ending need for gaining an advantage by grabbing or holding an opponent's suit. The women have developed and refined this technique to a level that makes it difficult for referees to see all the time. There are even mutual holds, which create a neutral situation unless you can spot the instigator. Hopefully, through watching these 8 video clips, it will increase your awareness and make it easier to spot violations when they happen. Many times, a suit hold can turn into breast exposure situation, which should always be quickly called as an exclusion foul, defensively or offensively. This would include any self-inflicted exposure, which is rare but does happen. Remember, if an offensive player exposes her opponent, the ball should be turned over as an offensive or contra foul, with the player being excluded. Sometimes referees forget this when it is an offensive exposure call. Telltale signs of a suit grab or hold can be the opponent's tan line getting exposed, or the victim tries to show the hold by elevating her upper body above the waterline by bobbing up. In some cases, the victim is forced underwater by the leverage of the suit hold, where the player might resort to grabbing her opponent's wrist or arm to try and release the hold. Any offensive player that is extending their arm to make contact with their defender should be scrutinized. 1, for possibly grabbing the front of their opponent's suit to create spacing. 2, to gain leverage for a shot or pass. 3, for just pushing away the defender's attack. All these efforts are offensive contra fouls and should result in the ball turning over. The first clip, defender grabs strap. The P1 defender grabs the suit of the offensive player. The offensive player shows the referee by bobbing up above water to expose the suit hold, and the exclusion foul is correctly called. Be suspicious of perimeter defenders extending an arm to make contact with the offensive player. There might be an attempt to hand check, hold, or suit grab on a drive attempt. We want to encourage offensive movement. If you are consistent in calling the exclusion, the players will adjust. It's their responsibility to show they are not fouling. Pressing defenses mean the potential for exclusions is much higher. Well, let's take a look at the clip. We'll run it right through the first time. This is pretty straightforward, and you don't really need to review it for too long. The P1 defender is going to receive the ball, and as she receives the ball, she shows that the defender all the time was holding on to the strap by just bobbing up, and it makes it for an easy call right here. This next clip, the P4 driver grabs the defender's suit. Nice offensive or contra foul called by the attack referee. The P4 player initiates a non-ball side drive, but uses the defender's suit to hold and push off to gain an advantage. We'll run this right through. And if you look closely, you can see her initiate the drive, but then she kind of reached around, grabbed a suit, and pushed off. It's right about right about here. And as we go frame by frame, you can see how she kind of grabbed or pushed up on the suit, and the defender tried to show that she was being exposed. So again, it's right here. She uses the right hand, kind of comes in, grabs, and the girl responds by trying to bob up above the water, the show, and she just lets go or kind of pushes off to continue to drive and gets pretty good spacing, and the offensive foul is called. The next clip, P2 using hand to control. Not only does this P2 player use a straight arm to control spacing, but she also grabs the suit in an attempt to turn the defender. Instead of the official calling an offensive or contra foul, which would be the correct call, he or she called an ordinary foul for simply knocking the ball out of the hand of the offensive player, which is perfectly legal, unless there are any body position circumstances that cause the defender to be impeding the offensive player after the ball is released. There should be no foul called. Defense is entitled to attack if the player is holding the ball. Well, let's take a look. And as you can see, we take it back to the point of the suit hold. She kind of had her hand on the player's chest to start off with, and she'll just try to move around here using the suit. There's a little bit of leverage to make a turn, and she doesn't quite get around. She released the ball and put her hand on top, and the defense naturally tries to push the ball underwater and basically knocks the ball out of her hand. Now, instead of turning the ball over there for ball under, it's an ordinary foul and the ball goes back to the offense. Clip number 4, the center forward grabs the center forward defender's suit for control. The center forward in this situation is holding the center forward defender's suit and arm to hold position and basically gain an advantage. Yes, the center forward has inside water, but it appears she got it illegally by holding and pushing the center forward D. The center forward D is desperately trying to release the hold and suit grab, only to get excluded for the illegal actions of the center forward. In the end, the center forward D was excluded for holding the center forward's wrist or forearm. This could be a good opportunity for a little collaboration by the perimeter referee stepping down to cover for the attack, since the action is clearer and closer to him or her. And let's take a look. Okay, now that you've had a chance to take a look at it in slow motion and in real time, you can see right at the beginning here, and unfortunately I didn't extend this clip out a little bit further, but you can see that the center forward has a hold of her suit, which with her right arm the center forward defender is trying to get it off her, and with her center forward's right arm. She's controlling that defender, and she actually pushes her away and underwater so that she can receive the ball. She has total control of the situation, but unfortunately it's illegal, and it should have been called. Of course, when she lets go of the ball here, that's when the referee calls a hold on the defender right there, and excludes her. Now this whole action is facing the perimeter referee, and if the perimeter referee was able to step down, and if they had radios and could communicate, it'd be a good opportunity for them to collaborate and see this reaction a little bit better. Clip number 7. P2 grabs front of defender's suit and scores. This is a tough situation for the perimeter referee because of his level view as compared to the camera height and angle. Looking at the sinking reaction of the defender at P2, when the offensive player grabs the ball, you can see the P2's opposite hand extend out to the defender and grab the suit. This provides the leverage and separation for the shooter. The initial actions of the defender on the drive before the ball arrives could easily be called an exclusion foul. The action of the offensive player was an offensive or contra foul on the shot, at least according to the rules as written. Could you see this in live time in a split section? What would your call be? Well, let's take a look at the clip. Now I'll have a chance to take a look at it in slow motion. Okay, we'll go back to the start and run this through. Now right here you can see where the arrow is, and you can see the player that's going to be taking the shot starting to make a drive. Off a foot is kind of a screen pick situation. Now right here, this is where the defender should have been excluded for interfering with the drive. She's basically holding and even sinking the offensive player at this particular point, but there was no call. So now the offensive player is allowed to work the ball, and you can see, right about here, where she has a hold of the suit and has that arm extended to maintain the separation and take the shot. And I know that she's grabbing the suit because I can see where the top part of the suit is kind of dropped down right here. But whether or not the referee could see that, I guess he didn't, and allowed the shot to take place. And again, I'll let this run in slow motion. And what would you call? Would you have called the early exclusion, which according to the rules is written? We should be calling that. But if that goes by, would you be able to see the arm extension and the sinking right there off the shot? And would you disallow that goal? Those are the questions you could ask yourself as we examine clip number 7. Clip number 8, I call this P3 grabs defender's suit, gets ordinary. The ordinary foul was called too late. By waiting a little bit longer to blow the whistle, it enabled the offensive player to use a straight arm with a suit grab, which should have been called as an offensive or contra foul. The defender at P3 obviously wanted a foul, but the official didn't make the quick, ordinary call, thus leading to an unnecessary situation. Call the foul when you see it, especially the ordinaries on the perimeter. Now let's take a look at the clip. Obviously, this is an interesting situation. By not calling that ordinary foul at the very beginning, which could easily have been called, and waiting just a little bit longer, that official obviously ignored right here. This is where the ordinary could easily be called. If it was any harder, it could have been an exclusion foul, but an ordinary would be fine. The player is not playing the ball. The player wanted to foul. Anytime you see a defense that's being aggressive and wants a foul, that's when quick ordinaries work out really well. By not calling the foul, you kind of allow for a little bit more physicality. And obviously, the offensive player is going to respond. She wants to get at that ball, and she kind of, in a way, simulates, but she's grabbing the offensive player's suit. You can see it right here. There's a nice little grab on the suit, and this defensive player is trying to show it. So there you have it. When you see that defense being aggressive, make that ordinary foul. Make it quickly. But make sure there is a foul if you're going to do it. Code 007. Post statement. You can view these clips and see a description of each by going to Darfish TV under the Collegiate Water Polo Association channel. If you have any questions, please contact me. Comments are welcomed on content and subject. All views on each clip would be open for discussion if I was reviewing them with the referee involved. The purpose of the discussion would be to improve consistency and serve as an educational tool for improvement.